All right, we are live. So welcome, Jennifer. You also go by Isa Dona. Um, so you are a harmonic creative channel and angelic earth healer, and you work a lot. You kind of guide people through the ascension, de-ascension process and what that's all about. Um, so we just had the pleasure of actually meeting yesterday. I got connected to Jennifer through my mentor at work. Um, because he knows that this is the path that I want to be on, the spiritual business and growing that and really helping people. And so he connected me to you, and here we are. So welcome.
Thank you, Megan. I'm so happy to be here. I really appreciate the invitation, and it's just delightful to meet you and to discover your work and your beautiful Facebook page. You're such a resource to people.
Thank you. So tell us a little bit about your journey, because I know when we were talking yesterday, you kind of started off in academia. You were an English professor, I believe, um, and then you were writing, and it was through writing that you had your spiritual awakening, which is, for me, it was like through health crisis. So it's interesting to hear a different perspective um, of your journey.
Yes, it's interesting how each of us individually come to this and when it happens. Um, I've met a lot of people who have come to it through health crisis. I um I was a writing professor in New York City, and I was doing a lot of writing for a long time. So I had gone through um, an MFA program, and I had launched a publishing company, a small literary press in New York City, and I was teaching writing, and I had been the editor of different literary journals, and I was married to a writer, and all my friends and community were writers. So my whole life revolved around creative writing and essay writing, and I was a poet, and that was my area of interest. Although I've always been very sensitive and intuitive, and I did have a meditation practice. I really wasn't. I looked at things very differently at that time. Like my all of my interests and career passions were all related to writing. And an interesting thing happened. My husband got very ill. He had melanoma at a young age. It was a stage 4 cancer. And I didn't realize that. So I think it was although it wasn't my health crisis, there was a health crisis happening. And I didn't realize at the time that all of the writing had actually been opening up my healing gifts for a long time and my intuitive gifts that I was using that channel to source in writing poetry. So I think anyone who is creative or anyone who has ever created anything, um, you know, including like parents, right? When you birth a baby or you birth a business or you birth anything that you created out of nothing, you know that you don't know exactly, how it happened. There's magic involved, and you're a vehicle for that. And so I had been practicing opening my channel for a long time, but really by accident, not on purpose. And then when my husband became ill, life became very stressful. We were both professors at the university, and he couldn't work anymore. And I, at that time, had kind of upped my spiritual practices to deal with the stress. So I was I was meditating and I was also writing, which at the time I didn't really look at as a spiritual practice. It was just my life and my passion. And but now I do consider that as, very much a spiritual practice. Um, and I was also doing kirtan, which was a musical chanting. So I think it was a combination of all these things was the magic sauce or that um, created, what was kind of like a catalyst within me. But I started just waking up with energy pouring out of my hands and the top of my head and my chest. And so it was very surprising to me at
You
the
know what
time.
it was, or were you like, what's happening to me?
I had no idea, honestly. Like, it was not something that was on my radar. I didn't know, you know, what was going on. I knew that nothing was wrong. Like, I didn't feel like something scary or bad was happening. I knew that it was something that was natural, um, and I trusted it. So I had a sense of well-being, even though I was very much in an unknown zone. And I had had a very strong desire for my husband to seek energy healing. I didn't even know what energy healing was. This was quite a while ago, and and he had no interest in that. So when this thing was happening to me, I decided to seek out energy work, and and ended up on a long journey of just discovering, discovery, which honestly the writing was a really big part of. Also the energy work, doing meditation, but all these things honestly just came together in ways that I could have never predicted or planned or known that this was going to happen. It wasn't anything that I was trying to do, but I had a very sudden, very powerful, pretty explosive spiritual awakening.
Yeah. And I know, like, for some of us who are older, like, if we had our awakening or like things started happening like prior to 2009, there was a lot of like, there weren't as many, there were healers and stuff, but not as prevalent as it is now. So, like, I know when I was going through my health crisis and my spiritual awakening and having things happen, like, some of it, was a little dark because I was purging out like the lifestyle that I was living, which wasn't bad, but like I was definitely, I had the candle, burning at both ends, working too much, working out too much, and in my 20s partying with my friends, and then it was like having these visions and having these dreams and these experiences and going, oh my God, what's going on, and feeling so alone.
Yes.
And now, like, people are waking up, but there's all of us who are like, okay, here, come in, it's okay.
Right. Right. Yes, I completely relate. It was an entirely different world. And I was living in New York City and in academia, and all of my friends were academics. And I myself had, led this life of like intellectual pursuit. It was all about intellectual development. And although there was a lot of spiritual development going on at the time, it wasn't the thing I was trying for. And the thing I find so interesting is how we're always we're always growing, we're always developing in all the right ways, and life is always providing, we ourselves are always creating just the right obstacle course for so that we can grow. Similar to what you said, I was burning the candle at both ends. My job was very high pressure. It was, a competitive, prestigious university. I was working with very talented students, and I I loved my work. It was also, a demanding job, and I took it seriously. And I was also doing a lot of writing and publishing, and also, editing And so all of this meant that I was working all the time. And then on top of that, taking care of a sick husband.
A lot.
And, it, it did eventually burn me out. And that was a big, pivotal, important moment.
Yeah, I think we all hit that point of like, I can't continue down this path anymore.
No, no. Yeah. So it's really interesting because um I really now, I mean, I look back and I can remember the way that I used to be. I can remember it very clearly. But my life is so different now, and I couldn't go back and do that again now. Like I literally wouldn't be equipped for it. Like going that fast all the time.
Yeah.
Um, living at the vibration that I live at now. Those things that I was doing back then, I was just doing a lot of multitasking, really, and now I don't really understand multitasking anymore. I kind of do one thing at a time.
I'm still guilty of that, because I took a break from corporate and then had to replace my um, AC unit, so I had to go back into corporate. But it's been like with COVID, there's such a change now. Like so many more people are awake and open to stuff.
Yeah.
We do weekly meditations at work for people. We've done manifestation stuff and vision board stuff. So it's like, for the first time, I feel like I can be my full like woo-woo self
Yeah.
in an environment that, I was always the different one. And now there's more people who are like me, even people who are like high up in the company, have been on that spiritual journey, either from their own burnout or, health crisis of, kids or like you, husbands. And so it's kind of refreshing, and it's kind of like, how do I help other people in that
Yes.
environment? you know, follow down the path, because we really have to change the way things are. Like the old systems, they're going to fall away. I think some of them will shift into higher vibrational businesses.
Mhm.
But it's like helping people in that transition state. Um, but I'm also like, I have no desire for that like rush, rush, rush. I don't want to like um had gotten into management at IBM, and it was like, after that I was just like, no, like my focus is on my business, and this is like what I do on the side. So like having that shift, um and really concentrating on myself in that process. So, it's nice to kind of hear, somebody else of like, how do we let go of who we were and really be who we are.
Yeah, absolutely. I deeply relate to what you're saying. Um, I've never worked in a corporate job, but I've worked in academia and in the university system. And it's interesting, like I feel like life is this process of, really discovering, who we are and why we're here and what's our unique contribution and the choices we make. We put ourselves in just the right environments so that we can discover, whatever our unique path is. And it it's a fascinating, like never ending process of remembering, really. And I think people do feel it, you know, sometimes even very strongly when something is when say part of what they're doing is out of alignment, and it's easy until it's no longer easy anymore to override that. So then we make adjustments. But but yeah, I really I loved academia and the literary world and publishing in New York City and all of it. I loved all my communities. I loved it until suddenly it was done. Like it was really like a chapter ending or a book closing, and it wasn't something that I saw coming. It wasn't part of my agenda. It for me it was very sudden, and I did take a leave of absence for like a couple semesters, and they kept trying to get me to come back. And part of me wanted to go back, just because it was familiar and I knew I could thrive in that setting. And I was good at what I did, and I enjoyed the students, and I love my colleagues. And but I was in a new place, like everything had changed. And the world is just changing so fast now. So I feel like, a lot of people are going through some kind of transition. And life itself is always forcing us to grow and change and say yes to whatever is coming, whether we planned on it or not. So I like, and it can be hard, right? When something is new, and it can be in small ways, it can be in big ways. But in my experience, in witnessing myself in my own life and clients, that's when we get into suffering, is when we resist instead of, relaxing, going with the flow, letting go, and and really trusting. So this is like a big area of fascination and passion for me.
Yeah. And when we were talking yesterday, you mentioned like that the surrender and like actually, checking in with yourself and like, what is the right thing to work on? What's the right thing to do? And really listening
Yeah.
to that. I'd love to talk about that more. And when we talked yesterday, that like knowing the difference between like the voice that says you need to rest right now, like it's not the time to do that, versus the fear that says I'm not ready for this, like these things are happening to stop me and I need to listen to those things.
Right.
And so let's dive into that conversation, because I think that can really benefit a lot of people, because
Hmm.
especially those who are starting really down the path of their own spiritual business. And like,
Mm.
how do you thrive? How do you listen, like truly listen to the right voice that says rest, move forward?
Right, right. And sometimes, both are happening at once, so it can be very confusing. This is something that I have practiced for a long time, and really struggled with at times, and coached a lot of people through this kind of self-awareness. So it is interesting because we are living on an ascending planet. So what that means is that, like, literally, we're all embodying a faster frequency of light, right? Our consciousness is expanding, our vibration is raising, and this can be very exciting, right? It's very inspiring. You have this energy and this momentum and this urgency and inspiration moving through you, and it's that creative energy that makes you want to go, 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 create, create, create. And we're all creating no matter what we're doing, we're always creating, and that's beautiful. That's what we're here for. That's the fun part. Um, for me, I love it. I love, just any kind of creativity, creation. Um, and I think that, coming from a third dimensional system, right, that we've all been living in for so long, that's kind of what's rewarded, right? Because that's what's in the visible realm. Like I can, oh, I produce this thing. Here it is. You can see it. You can buy it. It's real. Like it's tangible. It's valuable. Whereas a lot of times the resting or the taking time to just be is not necessarily as immediately recognizable as, valuable or something to be rewarded. But in my experience, you can't have one without the other. And especially as our vibrations raise, and this is really like my area of expertise, the energy that I channel, it's interesting because people experience ascension with the energy, but actually what it does is it helps you to relax.
Mm.
So so the planet is ascending, like that's happening. And how do we continually embody more and more and more and more light? And that's really, that's what nature is, that's what's happening just naturally. So it really does require slowing down. And if we don't listen, it becomes more obvious, right? Like the signs become more obvious. You become exhausted, or like you said, you had a health crisis. And really everything is just here to help us, whether it's exhaustion or it's a health crisis or it's, losing your job or whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Like this is a very benevolent
Mm.
uh universe that is here to support us. So I feel like, everything is always in communication with us and helping to guide us. And I'm grateful for that awareness. And I think that becomes more and more obvious as we go, right? Like maybe, that can be a bit of a process.
Um, it was interesting. A couple weeks ago, I finished reading this book called The Nine Faces of Christ, and it's about his initiations to becoming the Christ. And at the end, when he's going through the crucifixion, he's realizing that the people who, from an outward perspective, you would think were his tormentors, his, death
Right.
squad, were actually part of, the brotherhood that got him to where he was. And so they were like they're ushering him into like his full potential, with the ascension.
Yes, that gives me chills. My whole body lit up when you said that. That's the truth.
And I was like, wow, like
Yeah.
it's, so like we can look at like, yes, these bad things happen, but if we can kind of flip the switch of like, okay, this is happening for me,
Exactly.
and like this person who in the 3D is awful, like they're actually being a gift to us to like either like stand in our power, find a new path, like all these things that like if we can surrender and let go, we can become who we're meant to be. And that was like part of my healing crisis, was like learning to let go, learning to like re-love myself. And I started a gratitude process. And um like I had to like really reprogram my mind.
Yeah.
um and it's helped me to like, my friend at the time, like after I was like through the crisis, and then I like, was more positive and sending her all these positive memes. She's like, "Oh, you're so positive."
Right, but that is real and natural, right? As your consciousness expands, you have that sense of trust and well-being no matter what's going on.
Yeah. And I think, the universe comes around and tests you periodically
Absolutely.
with those big choices, like, uh your school board calling and trying to get you back in, of like,
Yes.
like, so for me, like, part of my journey has been like letting go of anger. And I,
Mm.
worked so hard at it, and had like made strides, and was like the last little bit, being a Yankee myself from New Jersey, like
Yeah.
that energy in the driving. That was like the one place, where it took me the most to really let go of that, because some of it was like the fear of like, oh my God, somebody will hit me, and you know and
Hmm.
like learning to let go of that. And then the universe said, are you sure? And I had this whole experience, and I had to like, I got to a point where it's like, this isn't who I want to be.
Right.
and I had to like again go through that process of reprogramming my mind and letting go of the thoughts and the beliefs and coming back to like who I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And it was like such a powerful moment to have that and to realize that of like you have to choose who you're going to be on a daily basis.
Absolutely. What you're saying is so important, Megan. Like this, there's this process of healing things, right? So there's a time when, we are, say, feeling anger or sadness or doubt or whatever it is, fear. And that honestly can just repeat forever,
Mhm.
until we make a choice. And you can't cut it short. Like, things need to be felt and feeling is healing. But there does come a point where you are making a conscious decision, to be here now, present in this moment and not to be reliving the past. And like you said, the universe will give us that opportunity. You said life tests us. It will give you that opportunity. The old boyfriend will come back and be like, "Hey, how you doing?" Whatever. And you decide, where you're at now and having that center within yourself, like a home to come home to return to. You know, I feel that that's where lasting peace and health and joy and all these things that sometimes can feel out of reach or feel unsustainable, that's where they come from and they are real and they can be lasting. Love can be lasting. Health it can be sustainable. Like, um, and it is really about presence, which can be hard when there's all this going on.
Or when something doesn't work out the way that you want it to, and not letting that stop you but be like, okay, what do we actually have to do in this moment to get this to work, to be okay? What do I have to let go of? What do I have to create?
Right. It's often those two questions. Right. So, yeah, I think of the letting go as the ascension, like letting go of the sandbags and the helium balloon lifts up, so releasing the obstacles to love. And then what do I have to create is what do I want to create? What am I here to create? What is going to, fulfill my meaning for being? That is the descension. It's the choosing to be here in your body, in your life, on earth, taking action, taking those higher light codes and bringing them down into this world, making it visible. And then you do have something you can say, "Hey, I created this."
All right.
But so much of it, like I feel like that's a very small percentage. Like so much of it is, happening in the invisible realms, and that is just so important. I feel that that comes first. The value of this thing that you've created is, reflects all of what all of that healing or that releasing that you've done, right? Because you're presenting something that is clear, something that is pure, something that is true, something that is in alignment with you and, with love.
And I think that's like a beautiful point for even like, you know, the future for corporate, instead of being in that go, go, go and rushing towards something, like,
Mhm.
you know, if it was okay, like what is the right thing to do? What is the right timing of things? Because I see
Yes.
a lot, like sometimes like things are pushed and then like deadlines have to shift because like it wasn't really the right time or things weren't properly thought through.
Right.
And it's like if you actually step back a little bit and take it what at a pace that seems slower, you actually get more done.
It's so true. It's like taking a vacation, right? Or taking time out to meditate. It can feel like it's, counterproductive, but it's the most productive thing you can do.
Yeah. Because like I remember like when I was at IBM, we had what were called defects, so like things that we had to fix or work items that we had to do. And I remember like at times like I could get through a lot of things really fast, and then I'd hit something, and I'd look at it, and like the words would just kind of jumble, and like what's going on with my eyes?
Right, right.
Um, and I'd sit with it for a little bit. I'm like, I don't understand this, and I'm like, I'm not going to deal with this right now. I'm going to focus on this other stuff.
Right.
A lot of stuff done, and then like maybe a day or two later I'd go back to it and it'd still be that same thing. I'm like, all right, let me work on these other things. And then
Right.
it's like when I would actually sit down with it, because it's like, okay, everything else is done, and it was either like a really quick fix, or I'd ask somebody else for help, and they would look at it and be like, oh, that doesn't actually have to be done, that's wrong, you could just close that.
Mm,
So it's like I was, instead of like sitting with something as a problem, I
mm,
just let the right timing come through, and I ended up getting so much done because I didn't focus on that. I focused on what I could do.
exactly.
Um, and so like, it's really interesting to see now how like that's playing out with the spiritual life and the spiritual path and ascension, and like, letting go and being like, okay, now's not the I'm just gonna let that go. And because it really is, if it's not easy, it's not the right thing. And not that like, there's going to be problems and they might be challenging, but if there's a easy fix to it, you can continue to move forward. But if it's like, oh, the power went out or like something, it's like, okay, let's let that go. It wasn't meant to be for today. We'll do it tomorrow. And like,
Yeah, a lot of times it's timing, right? Like sometimes it's not the right thing or sometimes it's not the right time. And I think it brings us back to your earlier question about, when to know when to take a break or let something go, or, or is this an uncomfortable feeling, that I can actually be present with, face, and move through, and it actually is time to take action or to, to face a fear. And it can be tricky to know, but I think the body is a huge messenger, right? When your eyes are going, you can't see your computer screen anymore. It's time to take a break.
so how do you help like your clients kind of through that process and find like without like telling them everything, like but just giving
Mm,
people a little bit of a taste of what you offer?
yeah, yeah. So, although I am a guide. So I'm an ascension descension guide. I'm a creative catalyst, and I'm a channel for peace. So I channel a unique healing system for peace and creativity called All Love Healing. And I'm not so much a coach, although I do a lot of ascension coaching. But really, like my primary gift is channeling light and embodying light and sharing that love energy. And so what I do is that I witness people through the transition to more peaceful, creative living. So to higher dimensional living where things are feeling more relaxed, even though, literally we're in a faster frequency. So that means that we're under more pressure. And it's not just because of our jobs or our, the pressures that we might have in our family life or from society. It's literally because the planet is ascending. And this isn't commonly understood. So I help people to understand what it is that they're going through and to, look at that in more of like a positive, helpful, inspiring light. So kind of like you were saying, like, when you had your spiritual awakening and there was no one to talk to and, you didn't know what was going on. So I went through that in like a big way. And so a big part of my motivation and my calling was to be there with people when they're going through that. So, to be I think being witnessed is so important. So much of this is being able, is having self-awareness, being able to see ourselves, and the ability to do that is sometimes harder than seeing others,
Mhm.
right? Like it's sometimes it's a lot easier to see what's going on in someone else than it is, within ourselves.
or even like, because part of my journey and part of my path of like, because from my healing crisis, like I went through this whole like I'm broken kind of experience. And
Mm.
it was like, I was trying to find, healers and modalities and things to help me put all the pieces back together. And like, you know, part of what I needed was like I knew like I was meant for something big, and I'm like I just need somebody who can like see that and
Yes.
validate that and
Yes.
help me, because it's like, because sometimes if you're like, oh, I know I'm this big, thing, and I'm like I'm meant for this path, but there's not somebody else validating that, you're like, oh, maybe it's just ego. um
Right.
and or maybe I'm delusional, like especially like at the beginning part of your of anybody's awakening process, like, there is that like, am I delusional? What's
Sure.
going on?
Yeah.
So like to have somebody who can
Mm.
witness you and witness like the potential that's there for you and help you
Yeah.
step into that, I think is so beautiful.
Well, that really is the way healing happens, right? Like we can experience our higher selves, and there's this merging process that happens with that. But there's so much trust and faith. And sometimes, there's a lot of doubt, and the doubt can overwhelm the faith and the trust. The energy that I channel helps to have trust. It helps you to have that higher dimensional perspective. So, and I don't like, I think no matter what, that self-doubt is always part of the process. And there's so many levels and layers of it, right? Like you reach a new plateau and you're like, woohoo, I'm on the top of the mountain, and then, you start ascending again. So we're always beginners. Um, and, that's really a beautiful thing, right? That's what being present is. That's what's really real. We're always if we're really present, we're always in a new place. We're always facing the unknown. Everything is unfolding live, just like you and I are having a live conversation. This isn't scripted. We didn't know where we are going to go with this. Um, and that's how nature works. So a lot of it is letting go of control, and I think that that's scary for everyone. So even if it's exciting, it's also scary. I've always loved change. I was always like, ooh, change, yippee. But as it's at higher and higher levels, and now you're having to let go of your entire like ecosystem. You're having to let go of like, I mean, I've had like my consciousness rearranged so many times. um like living on an ascending planet is literally like being in a hurricane. Nature is rearranging everything, from the inside out. And you, there's that, where am I and what am I doing moment that, you
What
know,
timeline am I on? What, like, I know a bunch of timelines just collapsed all of a sudden, and now like, where am I?
yeah. Exactly. Right. Everything is merging, right? So, and we're just letting go of so much. We're letting go of so if we're willing, we can let go of everything. We can heal everything. Every last thing and be completely present and show up here for our happiness and for our high service. And that's what's exciting to me.
Yeah. And I think like that's also the nice thing, like about like working with people consistently, and maybe like they may not be the only healer or only person that you work with, but like to have somebody who kind of sees you at the beginning phase, at the next phase, and can see what has shifted in you and reflect that back to you. Because I had
Yeah.
a client yesterday, um, part of what I do is like, I do the quantum healing combined with massage therapy. So like, as I'm
Mm.
working on the body, like seeing whatever needs to be seen. And this was somebody, she's, a psychic, um, and was kind of on that path. And like in just the past maybe 3 months, with literally with all the past two hurricanes that came through, like everything shifted from her. I'm like, and I was like, oh, your energy is really fire. I was like, I'm seeing like
Yes.
this fire, and I'm like,
Yes.
and like you're on a galactic path now, and like you're here to do really big things. Not that you weren't before, but it's like, you know, that the psychic stuff was just such a small piece of what you're here to do, and now like you're
Exactly.
on this path.
Exactly. Yeah. When those storms came through, whoo-wee, I saw so many people go through such powerful quantum up levels, myself included. I was on my back for 2.5 days. I didn't even know that Asheville and my friends were like underwater. Like I was just channeling so much energy and information that I literally couldn't move.
Wow.
And the whole thing has felt so fiery ever since. Like fire has just been on my mind and in my consciousness. Um, I think of that water energy as the feminine and the fire as the masculine. And there's this balancing that is happening on this planet and within our own bodies. And um, yeah, I understand what you're saying.
And that you bring that up because like I saw like the it was a liquidy fire, like the lava kind of coming,
Mm,
like that balance of feminine masculine
yes.
energy. So
Hmm.
interesting. I'll have to like
Yeah.
that tidbit when I talk to her next.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, your work sounds really yummy, the combination of the body work with the quantum healing.
Yeah. I don't do that as much. I do more of like the quantum healing, the pure energy work, but I have a few people who are local that I
Okay.
that kind of stuff. But
Nice.
it is interesting to do that because it's like and it's having to like slow down doing the body work instead of like moving through. It's like holding the points and like melting into the skin, the
Mm,
muscle, and then like all
mm.
the memories that are there, um,
Wow.
and being able to see things. Um, and it's always, it's both like validating to the ego and like really exciting when like you're like, oh, I'm seeing this, like I'm not really sure what it is, and either somebody like immediately knows exactly what it is,
Exactly. Yeah.
or like a day or so later they're like, oh my God, I know what it means.
Yeah. I love when that happens. It's really fun when it clicks in for
Yeah,
people. So, and I think, as a healer and a guide, that is a really rewarding moment, right? Because we want people to be discovering, their own healing gifts and their own sovereignty and their own intuition, their own awareness, and it just happens naturally, right? It just happens naturally when each of us are ready, if that's our path.
yeah.
So that's so fun.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of like the my most favorite thing to do is like guiding people through their own process or their own experience of the quantum fields so that they're
Yes.
seeing or experiencing things and like then being the guide or the coach and like asking them questions and asking them to look at things differently because sometimes like there's the trauma thought of what happened or even like gaslighting that happened
Mm,
where like we think we're to blame um, and getting them to see things differently so that and getting to the root cause of things so that like the energy just disappears.
yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, that's when something is just transmuted like that. It is it's so satisfying, right? Because then there's presence.
yeah.
You
Well, I
know,
remember like one of the times that I did that for myself and cleared something. And then like, 2 days later, I'm driving down the road and it was like, watching the Scooby-Doo, like when the energy would wave and then they'd reveal who. I had that like moment and then I'm like, where am I going? Where am I? And thank God I was at a stoplight. It was just like, oh, okay.
oh,
But it was just
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of those where am I moments. What?
so I tell everybody when I do a session, like, you may have this experience. It's
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. It's a really exciting time to be alive. Like what's possible now? And it just keeps changing all the time, like all of the rate at which things can transmute or shift or transform or the places that we can go and we don't even know what's possible. So, just staying in that open state of willing surrender at the same time that it is a co-creation, right? Like we have to show up to work and take care of business and so um but yeah, it's fun to just be willing and be on board for what life is delivering and say yes.
yeah, and surrender. Like I think that's again, like to your point, that's such a an important thing of like when you're here,
Yeah.
learn to surrender, let go, and then what is the right thing to do? Because you can't make any decision from like this the stress and the anxiety and
Right.
even like the fear of like what if I fail? What if I succeed? It's just like
Right. Then what if I succeed is just as scary, it's more scary than what if I fail?
yeah, because like I work with I have a business coach and it's like um it's been this process of like like I'm there but it's also this that fear of like if I really succeed here like oh my God I don't know what that looks like and so
Right.
it's like if I'm always working on it then nothing actually has to happen and so like I'm
Mm.
having to like start to let go of some of that and just okay, take it, take this action, like keep moving forward, make these small changes and let things start to happen.
Yeah, I love what you're saying, Megan. The small changes are so big. Like we think we have to be doing these big broad strokes, and sometimes it's like these baby steps that have this incredible quantum ripple effect.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So tell people like how they can get in touch with you if they want to work with you or even stalk
Okay.
you and
Okay, thanks, Megan. So I my name my name is Jennifer Chappis. My professional name, my spiritual name is Isa Dona. And my website is isadona.com. So it's isadona.com or just alllovehealing.com. And that is the healing system that I channel. So it's a unique system that I receive directly from source. It's always upgrading itself, as people say yes. So it's always the right thing at the right time in the right way, and it's guided by, your soul. And my email is contact@isadonna.com. And yeah, I have the website is not updated. I have been so busy that I lost track of updating it quite some time ago. But you can definitely get the flavor of it. And yeah, people can contact me with any questions. Everything that I do is custom. So
nice,
it's all very unique to a particular individual at a particular time, and it's always changing every time.
beautiful. And then you do occasionally do writing workshops to help people
Yes.
process.
Yes. Yes. So I have a program called Guiding Light Writing Workshops. And I also work with people one-on-one and do guiding light writing consultation in the Akashic Records.
Oh wow.
So, and there can be different themes to the writing workshops. I used to lead them quite regularly, and the vibration that I'm working at right now doesn't allow me to do as much, you know, and I only do things when I'm guided. So, when something's coming forward I receive it and I share it, but not if it's not like truly that's the time. So I don't always know exactly when that's going to be happening because it'll be all of a sudden be like it's time. I'm like, what? It's time. Okay.
Well, whenever
Um,
at the right time, please share in my group so that people will know.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, writing is just such a powerful tool for embodiment. So, we can be doing all this beautiful spiritual work in the higher realms, and then it's like how to distill it down into physical form. And it can be, that can be really challenging when your consciousness is expanding, and then to be able to, articulate and or make decisions or, the different take action, the different things that we've discussed. So writing is just a great tool for that. And literally, that is, I didn't realize it, but that was my path. It was my spiritual path. It was just using that channel. I didn't realize, that every time I was writing a poem, every time I was writing an essay, all of that journaling that I did, I was opening my channel to source. I was receiving energy and information and just so much, creative life force.
Hmm.
And it's, there's a learning curve to that, to being able to receive that and open to receive it and being able to relax and trust and really enjoy it.
Yeah. My professional life, I'm a tech writer. So like for
Yes.
change from I always joke like, the sun is yellow, the sky is blue, the grass is green, to like allowing myself to be more creative in my personal business. But like it helps me to be able to take complex spiritual knowledge and distill it down so that people can understand it. But I also like when I'm in
Mm,
my mind trying to write, it's so hard. But like
yeah.
when it's like coming from God or from source, like I can write so much in like a short period of time.
Yes.
And so like that's for me how I know like the difference between things. And I like I've come to realize that, because like you said earlier, you can't be in that creative energy 24/7. And so
No.
I go through these dry spells and I'm like, oh. But that's when I'm taking in information, I'm reading, I'm studying, and I'm processing all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, when the time's right, things will shift and,
Yes.
so
Exactly. It's like the seasons, right? Sometimes it's winter. Like we want it to be summer, but it's winter. And that's a beautiful thing, right? Like sometimes we need to hibernate or to rest, and everything is growing under the ground, getting ready to come up.
yeah. And I've really learned to like enjoy that process because I know like
Mm,
when it does spring into life, it's beautiful.
yeah,
And so
yeah.
like I now appreciate those versus like when I was first in that, it's like, oh my God, like I'm collapsing everything and everything's falling apart.
I know. I relate to that too. But that's part of it, right? Creation and destruction. Yeah, yeah. It's just as much, the letting go is just as important as the taking action. For every moment that you stare, like you spend staring off into space, that's just as important as when you're actually, putting something on the paper.
Yeah. So, any last words for people? Any wisdom or anything you want to share?
Just to remember that this is legitimately a challenging time because of the changes, the planetary changes that are happening. And if we try to like speed up in order to catch up, that can be destructive. So it's great to do that when you actually genuinely have the energy, when the life force is flowing through you, when the inspiration is there, when the creative energy is fueling you. But when you feel that need to slow down or need to rest or to take a break or go have some fun or move your body, whatever it is it's just so important to listen to that, and just how nourishing and powerful that can be, because when you open up like that and you let go, that's when source can because you're not in control of everything, right? Source can get through, can reach you, can help you, can support you. So, if you start to feel like, oh God, I'm doing everything myself and I don't have what I need, but that's all the mind. Really we do have what we need, but we're not always available to receive it.
Mm.
So, um, yeah, those are my parting words, and just like a lifetime of learning that, and really embodying that understanding.
Which is a big challenge, but it's also like what we're here to embody.
Yeah, yeah, we're just learning it over and over again because the frequency keeps raising. So it's okay too to be like, okay, I thought I already knew this. Why am I struggling with it all over again? That's natural. Like pretty much everything everyone is going through is natural. There's a learning curve. So yeah, yeah, and just to be good to ourselves that we're doing it and it is happening.
Yeah, that's
Good job.
the thing.
Yeah,
Be kind to ourselves.
yeah.
Accept yourself when you need to rest, and love yourself when you are in that creative energy.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, Megan. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you. And for if anybody who's listening live on Facebook, if you're doing replay and you have questions, please ask, and I'll make sure Jennifer sees them and we'll get them answered. If you're listening on YouTube, information will be in the description. Please like and share. And I'm just grateful to have these conversations and to like help other people. Um, both be seen by other people and just to like share all of our knowledge because we all hold, pieces that like when they come together, like you see more and more of the picture versus holding it
Yeah.
to yourselves. So,
It's so true. We're all these little pieces to the pie.
so
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm
well,
very grateful for you, Megan, putting your work out there.
thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm looking forward to when you have your next writing thing because I want to, help myself expand in that process as well.
Okay, I'll definitely let you know. I'll definitely let you know. Your body work sounds really interesting to me too. I know you said it's only for locals, but I'm a local.
Let me know.
Okay, okay.
All right. Well, thank you
All
so
right.
much, and thank you, everyone. So have a wonderful rest of your day.
Okay, thanks.
Bye.
Bye.